Before noon, Jonah Reed would be accused of stealing the money Bell Ranch needed for winter grain. The man demanding he be thrown off the ranch would be Rafe Slade, the foreman who wanted Clara Bell and wanted Jonah shamed before sundown. By 3 o'clock, the sale, Jonah's wages, his name, and any honest chance with Clara could all be gone. But at sunrise, Jonah knew none of that. He stood on Orrin Bell's porch with his hat in both hands, dust on the knees of his Sunday trousers, and hired men watching from the water barrel as if poverty had come to knock on the front door. Clara Bell was inside the screen door, still as a held breath. Her father sat in a rawhide chair with a coffee cup balanced on one broad hand. Orrin Bell owned the cattle, grass, and wages that kept half the valley moving. Jonah owned 1 horse, 2 shirts, and a month's pay he had not collected. So he said the thing plain. "Mr. Bell, I came to ask permission to court Clara, but I will not pretend more than I am. I have no ranch to lay at her feet. I have no herd with my brand on it. I have no fine house waiting. If that means I have no right to ask, I will take your answer and leave peaceably." Behind the hitch rail, a spur scraped. Rafe Slade, Bell's foreman, leaned against a saddle horn and smiled as if Jonah had just offered him a gift. "Well, there's an honest beggar," Rafe said. "Most men at least polish the empty plate before they pass it." 2 hands near the water barrel looked down. One gave a small laugh and then swallowed it when Clara opened the screen door. She was 26, tall enough to meet the world level-eyed, with dark blonde hair pinned low and a riding skirt marked with barn chaff. "Jonah did not ask you, Rafe," she said. Rafe's smile thinned. "No, he asked your father, which is proper. A daughter of Bell Ranch ought to be courted by a man who can offer more than saddle soap." Jonah felt each word land. He did not look at Clara because if he saw pity in her eyes, he might lose the little dignity he had brought. Orrin set down his cup. "A man who names his empty pockets before another man counts them has done one thing right," he said. "But wanting my daughter is not the same as deserving her time." "I know that," Jonah said. "Do you?" Orrin asked. "Then answer one more. If Clara says no, what do you do?" Jonah did look at her then. Clara's hand rested against the screen latch, not opening it all the way, not closing it either. "I thank her for answering me," Jonah said. "Then I keep my place. She is not a thing lost to me if she was never mine." The porch went quiet. Rafe's smile left first. Orrin's mouth twitched, but not enough to call it kindness. "That is the first sensible thing said on this porch today." Clara stepped outside then. She did not stand behind her father. "You rode all night to ask him," she said. "Yes, ma'am." "And if I ask why you did not come to me first?" Jonah breathed once. "Because I wanted your father to know I would not court you in corners, but your answer is yours. I should have said that first." "Say it now," she said. Jonah turned from Orrin to her. "Clara, may I call on you on Sunday if you wish it?" Rafe made a low sound of disgust. "Call with what? A borrowed chair." Clara did not turn. "Sunday after supper," she said, "on the side porch where anyone may see and nobody may claim." Jonah had to look down at his hat. If you enjoy clean, romantic Wild West stories, where honesty has to fight harder than money, subscribe and ride along for the next frontier romance. Orrin watched them both. Sunday is not a promise. "No, sir," Jonah answered. "And you will work today like every other hand." "Yes, sir." Rafe pushed away from the saddle rail. "Mr. Bell, the bay mares are due for Cal's inspection by noon. If Reed spends the morning courting, I will need another rider." Jonah put his hat on. "I can move mares and keep my manners both." "See that you do," Orrin said. The day took hold of them after that. Bells did not ring on Bell Ranch. Work did. Jonah caught the dun gelding he had ridden since spring. Clara came after him with a strip of rawhide lace in her hand. "Your cheek strap is split," she said. "I meant to fix it." "You meant to ride until it broke, and then blame the leather." He smiled despite himself. "That is possible." She stepped close enough to take the bridle, but not close enough to make gossip easy. She tied a small double knot near the cheek ring, then trimmed the loose end with the little knife at her belt. There, she said. Now if it breaks, you may blame me. At the office door, Nell Bell watched them. Nell was Clara's cousin, bookkeeper, and the only person on the ranch who could make Orrin's accounts behave. Rafe crossed behind her. Pretty not, he said to Clara, though a man who cannot mend his own bridle may not mend much else. Clara looked at Jonah's bridle, then at Rafe. A man who accepts help without turning it into a debt has mended more than you know. Orrin came out of the office carrying a rawhide purse. It was flat and heavy, tied with a red thong. Cal is paying cash for the V-clip mares, he said. $240 when he sees them clean. Nell, mark the purse before it goes in the drawer. Nell took the purse to the desk. Orrin stood over her while she pressed a clipped V inside the flap, small enough to hide when the leather folded shut. Clara saw the mark before Nell closed it. Rafe, at the door, saw only the outside of the purse and the red thong tied around it. Nell wrote the amount in the ledger and placed the purse in the office drawer. Rafe, Orrin said, you and Jonah move the clipped mare and 6 bays to the lower corral. I can handle it with my men, Rafe said. Jonah is one of my men until I say otherwise. Rafe's jaw shifted. Yes, sir. Clara saw the way Rafe watched that drawer before he left. She saw it because she had grown up on a ranch where men often looked at horses, grass, daughters, and money with the same measuring eye. Near the office, Nell came out with a tally sheet, then stopped short. Her hand flew to her mouth. The drawer was open. The purse was gone. At first no one spoke. Then the emptiness seemed to grow loud enough for the whole yard. I put it there, Nell whispered. Orrin crossed the yard in long strides. Who went in? Rafe answered before anyone else could. Nell, you, me, Miss Clara. Reed passed the door when I sent him for the bay mare rope. Jonah turned slowly. I never crossed the threshold. Rafe took one step toward him. You were seen by the office. By whom? Rafe looked toward the water barrel. The 2 hands there shifted. One said, I saw him near it. Near it is not in it, Clara said. Rafe's voice sharpened. A man comes asking for a rancher's daughter while admitting he has nothing. Same morning, the mare money disappears. We can keep pretending those are separate things if it pleases everybody. Jonah felt heat rise in his face, but he kept his hands open. Orrin studied him. Did you take my purse? No, sir. Do you know where it is? No, sir. Jonah reached into his vest and took out his own pay envelope, still sealed. He held it out to Orrin. Search me, search my bunk, search my saddle. If money is found, count it in front of Clara and every hand here. Rafe moved fast. That proves nothing. A thief can hide money. Then search the places a thief would hide it, Clara said. Rafe turned on her. Clara, do not let a pretty answer blind you. Poverty makes men hungry. So does ambition, she said. Mr. Cal's buckboard rolled into the yard before Orrin could answer. He was a cattle buyer from Rawlins with pale gloves and a nose that looked permanently offended. Rafe lifted his chin toward him. There is your trouble, Mr. Bell. No purse, no sale, no winter grain. If Reed stays, Cal rides away thinking Bell Ranch keeps thieves in the saddle. Mr. Cal cleared his throat in a way that said Rafe was not wrong. Orrin looked from the empty drawer to Jonah. Jonah, you are off remuda duty until this is settled. The words hit harder than a firing. Rafe folded his arms. He should be off the ranch and his name off the work board. Orrin did not look at him. I said until settled. The buyer will not wait all day, Rafe pressed. At 3, either Reed is gone or the sale and Bell Ranch's winter grain go with Cal. Jonah looked at Clara. He wanted to ask her to believe him. He would not put that weight on her in front of men who already thought a woman was a prize and a poor man was a thief. I will get my bedroll, he said. Clara stepped into his path. No. The yard held still. She lowered her voice, but not enough to hide it. If you leave now, Rafe gets to call that guilt. If I stay, he calls it shameless. Then let him work harder. Rafe laughed again, but there was strain under it. Miss Clara, this is not one of your colt games. No, she said, a colt tells the truth faster. Before Orrin could answer, A crash came from the far pen. The blue roan had slammed her shoulder into the gate. One hinge jumped, and the young hand nearest the latch stumbled backward with both arms up. The mare's halter rope had dropped under one front hoof, and every pull tightened it. Rafe swore and reached for a quirt hanging on the rail. "Stand clear, I'll make her mind." "No," Clara said. She was already moving. Jonah moved with her, not ahead of her. That mattered. Clara noticed it even while fear pushed cold through her stomach. "Let go," Jonah told the young hand. The hand obeyed because Jonah's voice had no panic in it. Clara eased along the fence with both palms open. "Easy, girl, nobody's dragging you." Jonah watched the rope, the mare's foot, the cracked hinge, and Clara's position all at once. When the mare swung her head, he slid one rail down and made a gap wide enough for Clara to pass a loop through. "Can you hold her eye?" he asked. "Yes." "Then I can cut the rope." For 3 breaths, the whole yard watched them work like people who had done it for years. Clara kept the mare's attention. Jonah went low, knife in hand, close enough to be hurt and calm enough not to invite it. He cut the rope clean. The mare sprang back free. Orrin had come halfway down the steps. "That was foolish," he said. "Yes, sir," Jonah answered. Clara looked at her father. It was also right. Rafe hung the quirt back on the rail harder than necessary. A fine show, but a calm horse does not put money back in a missing drawer. The reminder struck the yard flat again. Orrin lifted one hand. "Jonah, you will not leave the ranch line. You will sleep in the empty tack room, not the bunkhouse. Rafe, you will move the sail to 3 o'clock. Nell, you and Clara check the office account." Nell went pale. "Me. You keep my books." "Yes, uncle." Rafe's eyes flicked to her, quick, hard. Clara saw that too. The next hours did not pass. They dragged. Jonah searched his own bunk first. Rafe stood at the doorway with 3 hands watching. They found a spare shirt, a Bible with a cracked spine, a twist of tobacco, a button wrapped in paper, and $12 in wages from a spring drive. "A rich haul," one hand muttered. Rafe shot him a look. In the tack room, Jonah sat on an upturned nail keg, while Orrin's old dog slept by the door as if guarding him from worse company. Clara came in with a tin cup of water. "You should not be here," Jonah said. "It is my father's tack room." "That is not what I meant." She set the cup down. "I know." For a second, he looked tired enough to be older than 29. "Clara, if this stains you, step back. Rafe wants me gone. Do not let him make you pay for standing near me." Her hand tightened around the cup. "Do you think I only stand near easy things?" "No." "Then do not ask me to become smaller so your pride can feel noble." He looked up then. There was hurt in her words, and it cut him because it was deserved. "I am afraid," he said quietly. "Not of Rafe, not even of losing work. I am afraid that if I ask you to believe me and you do, I will want more than I have any way to carry." Her voice softened. "You already asked for Sunday." "Sunday was hope, this is trouble." "Then we will see which one tells the truth." She turned to leave, but he spoke before he could stop himself. "Clara." She looked back. "I did not come for Bell Ranch." "I know. I came because when you ride a fence line, every horse watches you. When you speak, men listen even if they pretend not to. When a thing is wrong, you do not dress it up polite. I came because I have thought of you every day since the North Pasture fire, and if I kept silent any longer, silence would have become a lie." For the first time that day, Clara looked shaken. Then footsteps crossed the yard, and the moment closed. At the office, Nell sat with the ledger open, and her hands folded so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Clara stood beside her. "Nell," Clara said, "what did Rafe say to you?" "Nothing." "You looked at him when the purse was missing." "Everyone looked at everyone." "Not like that." Nell shut the ledger. "You have your father's name, Clara. If Jonah is cleared, you will still have a place at supper. Some of us keep our place by not angering men who sign orders. Rafe does not sign your wages. He can make Uncle Orrin think I am careless." "Did he?" Nell's eyes filled. She turned away, angry at the tears before they fell. I saw him by the drawer. I did not see him take it. Clara stepped closer. When? After Jonah went for the rope. Why not say that? Because Rafe said if the sale failed, someone would answer for the missing purse. He said a bookkeeper who mislaid cash would never work from here to Laramie. Clara's stomach tightened. Where is the purse? Nell shook her head. I do not know. Nell, I do not, I swear it. I only saw him touch the drawer. Then he sent me to fetch Cal's tally sheet. When I came back, the drawer was shut. It was not enough. Clara knew it before Nell finished. A touch was suspicion. A threat was motive. Neither would clear Jonah before men who had already seen poverty and theft standing close together. At 3 o'clock, fear would be called a lie unless Clara found something fear could touch. She went to the mare pen. The blue roan with the clipped V brand stood tied in shade, ears flat. Clara ran her hand along the gate, the post, the rope, the dust where boots had crossed and crossed again. She was not a tracker like Jonah, but she knew her ranch. She knew what belonged where. Near the feed loft ladder, she found a sliver of rawhide. It was small, curled like a shaving, with one edge darkened by the oil she used on bridal lace. She held it in her palm. Her own knot. The cheek strap she had tied for Jonah had been trimmed. This piece should have fallen by the hitch rail, not here. She climbed the ladder. In the loft, hay dust floated in the light. There were sacks, old harness, a broken singletree, and a cracked grain bin no one used because mice had found it first. Clara crouched and saw fresh scrape marks in the dust. Someone had pushed the bin aside. Behind it lay a short red rawhide tail, no longer than her finger. Not the purse, not the whole thong, only a cut end. The edge was pale and fresh. Tied in its curl were one dark horsehair and a tiny gray burr from the lower creek crossing. Clara knew the burr because she had spent half the spring cutting it from the mare's monays. Jonah had not crossed the lower creek after the purse vanished. Rafe had. She climbed down too fast and nearly slipped. At the bottom, Rafe was waiting. Looking for something? He asked. Clara closed her fist around the rawhide tail. Yes. Find it. Enough to keep looking. He moved closer. You are making yourself look foolish for a man who will be gone by sundown. Did you put the purse in the loft? His expression did not change, but his eyes did. Careful, he said softly. Accusing a foreman without proof can break a woman's standing. Threatening a woman in a hay loft can do worse to a man's. For a moment, she thought he might grab her arm. Instead, he stepped aside with a little bow. Bring whatever you found at 3, Miss Bell. Then watch your father choose which name he can afford to lose. By the time Clara reached the tack room, Jonah was saddling his dun. Where are you going? She asked. Lower Creek, one of Orrin's mares is loose. You are accused of theft, and you are still chasing his mare. She will founder if she reaches the sour grass. Jonah. He paused. Rafe crossed the creek after the purse disappeared, she said. I found this in the loft. Jonah took the red tail from her hand, careful not to touch her fingers in a way men could twist. His eyes narrowed. This burr catches on the south bank. I know. The purse may have gone with him. Or he hid it and wants us looking creekward while he moves it. Jonah looked toward the office. If he is smart, he will put it where I can be tied to it. Then do not go alone. The mare is still loose. Clara almost smiled despite the fear. You make honesty inconvenient. Mostly for myself. This is a good place to subscribe if clean Western romance, hard choices, and honest cowboys are the kind of stories you like to hear. They rode together to the lower creek. Jonah found the mare caught in willow scrub, rope twisted under one hind foot. He spoke softly, cut the rope instead of yanking it, and freed her without a scratch. He could have kept riding then. Instead, he turned the mare back toward Bell Ranch, because leaving with a clear conscience would still leave his name in Rafe's mouth. On the ride back, Clara said, Rafe has a name men obey because they are paid to. That matters. So does what they do when pay is not enough. They reached the yard and saw Rafe speaking to Orrin by the corral gate. Nell stood nearby, crying openly now. Rafe held a small packet wrapped in flour cloth. "Found in the tack room," he announced when Jonah rode up, "behind the nail keg where Reed was sitting." Jonah dismounted slowly. Orrin took the packet and opened it. Inside was the rawhide purse. The yard breathed in. Clara's mouth went dry, but her mind sharpened. The purse was tied with its red thong again, but the knot sat closer to the flap than it had that morning, and one end showed a pale, fresh cut. "Too neat. Too clean." Rafe lifted his voice. "I said he should be sent off. Now I say he should be held until the marshal comes from town." "No marshal," Jonah said. Rafe's eyebrows rose, afraid. "No, I want this settled here, by people who saw enough to know what they saw." Rafe's grin returned. Fine words from a cornered man. Clara stepped beside Jonah. "Father," she said, "let Rafe tell everyone where he found it." "He just did," Orrin said. "No, let him tell it fully. Let him show how it lay, what side the knot faced, whether the red thong was tied or loose, and what marks were on the purse." Rafe's face hardened. Orrin looked at his daughter for a long moment. Then he turned toward the branding corral, where the buyer and hands had gathered for the delayed sale. "Everyone inside the rail," he said. Rafe's confidence flickered, but only for a second. He had lived too long by boldness to abandon it in front of men. They moved to the corral, the blue roan stamped near the far fence. Mr. Cal stood by his buckboard, irritated and interested in equal measure. 5 ranch hands lined the rail. Nell stood near Clara, pale as flour. Orrin held up the purse. "Rafe says this was found in the tack room. Rafe, speak." Rafe spread his hands. It was behind the nail keg under a scrap of burlap, tied with the red thong, same as it sits now. Clara said, "Was there anything else?" "Money," Rafe said. "Your father's money." "On the outside." "What?" "What mark was on the outside of the purse?" Rafe barely paused, a clipped V same as the sale mare's. Nell drew a sharp breath. Clara waited. Rafe mistook the silence for weakness. And there was a strip of bridal lace caught in the thong, Reed's bridal lace. He must have snagged it when he hid the purse. Jonah looked at Clara. She looked at Nell. Nell pressed both hands to her mouth. Rafe realized too late that he had said too much. Clara took the purse from her father. She turned it so all could see. "The clipped V-mark is not on the outside," she said. "It is inside the flap." Nell's voice came thin but clear. "Uncle Orrin and I were the only people there when I stamped it." Orrin looked at Rafe. The flap was shut when it went in the drawer. Clara held up the little dark bridle shaving from Jonah's cheek strap. "And this was not tied into the thong when Father opened the packet. I found it in the loft and put it in my pocket. The edge carried the same dark oil I rubbed into Jonah's cheek strap this morning. I never showed it to Rafe." The hands at the rail went still. The water barrel hand who had laughed at Jonah that morning stared at the joined cuts, then at his boots. Shame moved across his face before courage did, and for the first time all day he looked less afraid of Rafe than of what he had helped do. Mr. Cal leaned closer, not touching the purse, only looking. "That cut is fresh," he said. "Fresh leather does not age by accident in a tack room." No one answered him. They did not need to. The proof lay in Clara's hands where every man could see it, and Rafe's silence had become louder than his orders. Clara reached into her other pocket and brought out the short red rawhide tail. "This is what I found behind the grain bin," she said. "Not a whole thong, a cut tail from the purse thong." She laid the red tail against the shortened end on the purse. The pale cuts met like 2 halves of the same scar. Rafe struck for the purse before Clara finished speaking. 2 hands left the rail, not to help him, but to block him. Jonah stepped between Rafe and Clara, but Clara did not fall back. She twisted the purse away and shoved it into Orrin's hands. "So how did Rafe know about a hidden mark and a bridal shaving unless he handled both before this moment?" Clara asked. Mr. Cal folded his pale gloves and moved away from Rafe, leaving a clear strip of dirt between them. Nell, Clara said. Nell shook her head once, wild with fear. Rafe's voice cut across the corral. You say one word and you will never keep books again. Orrin turned on him. You do not threaten my blood on my ground. Nell began to cry harder, but she spoke. He touched the drawer after Jonah left, she said. He sent me out. Later he made me put the purse behind the tack room keg. He said if I did not, he would tell every ranch from here to Rawlins that I lost sale money and cooked ledgers. Rafe pointed at her. Liar. Nell flinched. Clara caught her hand. Finish it. Nell swallowed. He said once Jonah was gone, Mr. Bell would see sense and let him marry Clara before winter contracts. He said a poor writer had no business reaching for a ranch. The words hung in the sun. Jonah's face had gone very quiet. Clara felt Nell's hand trembling in hers. It would have been easy to let anger fill the space, easier still to pretend fear excused every wrong thing done under it. Clara did neither. She kept hold of Nell because letting go would have made Rafe's threat the strongest thing in the corral. Orrin looked at his niece, then at the purse, then at the men along the rail. His face did not soften. Softness would have been too cheap for what had happened, but something in him settled, heavy and final, like a gate dropped into its latch. Fear explains a thing, he said. It does not clean it. Nell nodded once, crying too hard to speak. The hand who had laughed that morning removed his hat and stepped beside Jonah without looking at him. I saw Reed outside the office, he said. Rafe told me to make near sound like inside. Rafe spun toward him. Shut your mouth. The man kept his eyes on the dirt, but he did not step back. Rafe pointed at the crew. Get those mares ready. Nobody moved. When Rafe ordered the mares moved, not one rope came off the rail. Even the youngest hand kept his eyes on Orrin. That was the moment his power broke, not when Clara showed the purse, not when Nell confessed, when men who had obeyed him before looked at him and chose stillness. Your authority ended when they refused you, Orrin said. Your wages end now. Clear the foreman room before sundown. He walked to the board nailed by the corral gate. On it hung work names, duties, and contracts. He took Rafe's foreman's slip from the nail and tore it once down the middle. Then he took Jonah's old duty slip from the lower nail and held it up where the crew could see the name still written there. This one stays, Orrin said. Until I say different, no man on Bell Ranch speaks thief over Jonah Reed. The word thief seemed to leave the yard with the dust. It had been easy in Rafe's mouth. It sounded smaller after Orrin named it and threw it away. Jonah did not smile. A cleared name still ached where shame had held it. Rafe's face went red. You will regret this. I regret not doing it before breakfast, Orrin said. You cannot run this outfit with a thief's word and a daughter's tears. Jonah spoke then. Clara did not cry. Rafe stared at him. Jonah's voice stayed low. And if you call her weak again, you will answer for that separate from the purse. Orrin looked at Jonah. No fighting in my corral. No, sir. Rafe gave a bitter smile. See, he has courage only when another man's roof covers him. Clara stepped forward. Then take the roof away. Jonah Reed still came back with father's mare when running would have helped him. You hid money because honest poverty frightened you more than theft. Mr. Cal turned to his buckboard. Bell, I will buy the mares from her tally. Clara blinked. Mine. She seems to be the only one who can count men and horses both. Orrin handed Clara the purse. Count it. Her hands shook once, then steadied. She counted the money on the rail in front of everyone. $240, not a coin missing. Nell looked at her shoes. I will leave if you ask me. Clara looked at her cousin for a long moment. The hurt was real, so was the fear that had made it. No, Clara said. You will stay. For 1 month you will keep books under my eye, and every hand will know why. After that, father decides if trust has grown legs again. Nell nodded, crying silently now. It was not forgiveness. Not yet. It was a cost she could carry. For more clean, romantic Wild West stories about brave frontier women, lonely cowboys, and love earned honestly, subscribe before you ride on. Rafe was ordered to clear his bunk before sundown. 2 hands went with him, not as friends, but as witnesses. When he reached the bunkhouse, the younger hands who once jumped at his voice kept playing cards and did not look up. By evening, his saddle was tied behind his own horse, and the foreman room stood empty. The ranch did not cheer. Orrin Bell did not allow cheering over rot cut from wood. Work continued. The mares were sold. The money was entered in Clara's hand. Jonah's name was cleared in ink, but more importantly, in the way men made room for him at the water barrel again. The hand who had laughed offered Jonah the dipper first. Jonah took it, drank, and handed it back without making the man beg for pardon. That mercy did more to shame him than anger would have done. Still, Jonah did not go to Clara. He went to Orrin. The old rancher stood by the corral board, holding a fresh slip of paper. "I owe you wages," Orrin said. "Yes, sir." "I owe you apology." Jonah looked uncomfortable. "You held judgment." A man can hold judgment and still bruise another man with the holding. Jonah did not know what to say to that. Orrin pinned the new slip to the board. Jonah Reed, horse partner, trial wage through winter. Jonah stared at it. "I cannot buy in," he said. "I did not say owner. I said partner in horse work. You will be paid more because you are worth more, and you will answer for the remuda with Clara." "With Clara?" "Unless she objects." Behind them, Clara said, "I do not." Jonah turned. She had changed from her work apron into a clean blue riding jacket. Her hair was still pinned, but loosened at the temples by the long day. She held 2 bridles, one for her mare and one for his dun. Orrin looked from one to the other, and for the first time smiled openly. "This morning you told me you had no ranch for my daughter," he said. Jonah swallowed. "I still don't." "No, but you brought back a mare when leaving would have saved you. You offered your pockets to be searched before you offered excuses. You would not claim Clara when my name could have helped you. And when the truth came, you stood beside her without standing in front of her." The old man's voice roughened. "Land can be bought by fools. Cattle can be inherited by cowards. But honesty like that is rarer than water in August. You are honest enough for Wyoming, Jonah Reed." Jonah looked down because the words struck deeper than praise. Clara came to stand beside him. "Father," she said, "I told Jonah Sunday after supper." "I heard. I am changing it." Jonah lifted his head. Clara handed him his bridle. "Tomorrow at dawn, we will ride the east fence. If he means to court me, he can start by learning which posts I hate." Orrin laughed once, low and surprised. Jonah took the bridle. "That sounds like work." "Most true things are," Clara said. He held her gaze. "Then yes." She smiled then, not the polite smile men tried to earn, but the one that began in her eyes and made Jonah feel as if the whole hard day had not been wasted. At dawn the next morning, Jonah and Clara rode through the same gate where Rafe had called him a beggar. Jonah's name hung clean on the corral board while Rafe's torn foreman slip curled to ash in Orrin's stove. Clara pointed toward the east fence, and Jonah rode beside her, not ahead of her and not behind. This time the whole yard watched Clara choose, and no man spoke over her.